I go to a lot of these events, we go to a lot of networking events and such. Sometimes it looks like this. Men are over here, women are over here, kind of talking side by side. What's wrong with that? We're missing the opportunities, right? To really cross-collaborate. I learned a long time ago that if we surround ourselves with people that aren't like us, if men and women finally understand the power of working together as allies, those are the leaders that are going to be much more successful than the others. Because we can really generate and pick out the best of one another. I remember one of my mentors, Dan Bannister, who's since passed away. He invited me out for breakfast one morning. We began to talk about, Becky, what else do you do? It seems like you're very interested in workforce, but you have a passion around leadership. And I noticed you have a real passion and vision around women. And I have never met anybody like you that has that vision. And I would like to help you. I want you to go out and write a business plan and come back in 4 days and let's go over this business plan. And I'll give you guidance of how I can help you to get that lift and help you to create this Leadership Institute for women. So I did my homework. I went back and sure enough, he reviewed it. Dan has seen millions of business plans, which I had never written one before. Got to understand what that really meant. And he was inspired by that. And he said, you know, now what we have to do is we have to create this board. I said, a board? A number of people around us, outside of our day-to-day, our worlds, to be our connectors, to be a unified team, to really help you to live this vision. And so the both of us went out and found 7 more people in different industries, different thought partners, that would sit around the table for about 8 years and be the board of directors for the Women's Leadership Institute for Shambaugh. And then just before Dan passed, he came to me and said, thank you. And I said, Dan, I should be thanking you. He said, no, I have learned so much through this journey about the power of relationships, about the power of what men and women can do together. And I thank you for helping me to create this story and hopefully share a wonderful legacy with you. So the power of one, men and women allies. Women are on the rise. There's still a majority of men that are key influencers. In fact, 88% of that, if you want to be precise. But that is changing. But let me just point out one thing. If you have been in the norm for centuries and decades, wouldn't you feel a little comfortable if all of a sudden you saw different people around? So I think part of this is that we need to help men feel comfortable with the change and frame this in such, this isn't about women power, this isn't about women taking over. It's about leveraging and bringing all the different strengths of leadership to the table now. So we have a better balance of thinking because we will all be better and more successful for that. I think sometimes we as women don't see the power that we have to invite them in. But if they're 88% of decision makers, influencers, if we don't bring them in and invite them into the conversation, invite them into these different types of forums, it's going to be very difficult to really achieve gender parity. We'll always have a headwind. When I was in Silicon Valley having this conversation, we took a quick break, men and women as allies. All of a sudden, the women were sitting all in the front row and the men were standing in the back. And she got up at break and she went back to the CEO, took his arm, and invited him to sit up in the front row to join him in the rest of this conversation. And all of a sudden, you could feel the room shift. And other women were reaching out to their male partners in the back and bringing them in purposefully to fold in to part of the conversation. That is just one single act of courage that we can start doing. We don't need diversity and inclusion in HR people to do that. This is what good leaders do. This is what human beings do, is to connect and invite all of us in.